Hey folks, you know I take my trail camera intel pretty seriously. It's a huge part of how I build my hunting strategy, and I'm always looking for gear that just flat out works. Stuff I can rely on. Backed by solid people and the best customer support in the business. That's exactly why I run Tactacam Reveal cell cameras. Whether you're just getting started or you're a full-blown data junkie like me, they've got a camera to fit your budget and your hunting style. My go-to currently is the Reveal 3.0 series with fully integrated GPS. These things are dead simple to set up. Less fiddling, more scouting and hunting. And they run on most major service providers and will automatically connect you to the strongest signal in your area. So no more hiking to the top of a ridge just to realize you've got the wrong service provider. Been there, not fun. Here's the kicker. You don't even need an SD card. That means fewer trips in, less pressure on your spots, and more real-time intel sent straight to your phone. And if you pair it with a Reveal solar panel or a lithium cartridge, you can keep those cameras running longer and spend more time doing what actually matters. Scouting new ground, dialing in a setup, or maybe, just maybe, finally cleaning the garage like you told your wife you would before the season started. Don't just take my word for it. Check out Tactacam Reveal at Tactacam.com. Tactacam. Everything you need to take your hunting to the next level.
All right. What is up, everyone? It is the Captain's Log Session 2. It's Monday, November 3rd, as I'm recording this, just to give you guys a quick update. So I took off work, so I think I put the last one out on Thursday. Thursday I went out and did some glassing, saw a pile of deer, no decent bucks. Actually, in fact, I don't think I saw a single buck on Thursday afternoon. And then I ended up taking off work on Friday because the weather was getting right. I'll say getting right because it was going to be cooler. I don't mind when the temperatures are a little warmer out here, as long as they're not oppressively warm. In that 60-ish degree range, I kind of like. It's cool enough that it feels like the mornings and evenings are really good, and not oppressive where the deer don't move midday. And it's not terrible to get out and hike and speed scout some ground and stuff like that as far as heat goes. But anyway, so that was Thursday. Friday, I took the day off because it was going to be nice and crisp and cold. Ended up hunting that morning. I think I saw a couple deer that morning, no bucks. And then I ended up driving a good bit, just kind of going to some places I hadn't been before, and I would maybe jump out. If something looked really good, I might speed walk it real quick, or I might just jump out, get to a spot to where it looks like I'm kind of in the middle of maybe a drainage or something like that, or a creek bottom. I can get out, rattle, do a little calling sequence, set up the decoy and see if I can't get something to come in. So no luck with that. So then Friday, what I ended up doing was going and glassing. My whole plan was to basically hunt the morning, drive and cover as much ground as I could Friday during the day, which I did. And then get back to where I had seen that big deer on Tuesday and glass him because I had the wind that I wanted for the setup that I wanted on Saturday morning. So I went and glassed that area again and saw a handful of does came out exactly where I'd seen all those deer on Tuesday. So I was really hopeful that the couple bucks that were with them were going to make their way out with them too. Those deer ended up filtering literally right to me, from 300 yards away, were on top of me at 15 yards. And so they didn't win me. I actually kind of got behind this bush and kind of hid, I guess, if you will. They saw I had my tripod and a spotter up. That's what they saw. They got spooky and then took off and went back from where they came. And then coming across the rise on the opposite side of this drainage, there was a group of 6 does. I don't know if it was those 4 that I had seen earlier plus, 2 other ones somewhere. But whenever I had seen that group on Tuesday, I want to say there was probably a total of 10 or 11 deer that were together. I think I counted 7 does. So that might have been that group that were kind of coming across the rise. So at any rate, I felt like I was seeing the deer that were with those bucks, only those bucks never made their way to where I was at. So Saturday morning, I still felt good about it. I was like, these deer are still in this area. I don't think the bucks, if they're staying there, have gone very far. So I'm going to just go ahead and go back in there, because all it takes is like one of those does to get warm. And all of a sudden, the bucks start showing up and start making themselves visible. So Saturday morning, got there, walked in, not a terrible walk into this particular piece, super cold, set up on the ground underneath this cedar, and saw a doe like 300 yards away working down off this rise. And then I saw a small buck early in the morning, and so I couldn't tell what he was. I knew it was just a small deer though. And I watched him for a little while, and what I was expecting was maybe something to come off of my right, or so from my north, and just wasn't seeing anything there. Then all of a sudden, that deer that I'd seen from 300 yards away, that buck, ended up right on top of me. I got to film him. I posted it on my Instagram stories if anybody saw it. But he got to sub 5 yards. I was on the ground just playing the wind tucked up against this cedar tree. And if that was the right deer, that would have been like a slam dunk chip shot. I would say that even with being new with a longbow, it was so close. And he walked right by me and never saw me, which was awesome. So those are the types of experiences that I like while I'm out here. It's just getting that close to deer. So finished up that hunt on Saturday. And then basically what I did was I just drove from, I think I was done hunting around 10 o'clock. And I basically drove all through the night, or all through the day rather, till about from like 10 till probably 4 roughly. So I did probably 6 hours of driving, checking out pieces, walked a couple pieces. There's one spot where I think has some promise. It had some decent sized rubs in it that were pretty fresh. Like the one rub I found looked like it was made within like the past day or so. And so I walked that piece. I had seen this piece before, and I ended up walking to the back side of it, because there's like a big long drainage that runs through it, but there's a cornfield that kind of separates it, and the patch of corn you got to get through is really wide. So I obviously was going to make a lot of noise trying to get through that. So I didn't really want to do that. So I kind of did an about face, went to the back side of the piece, and I'm able to get into the drainage from the back side of the piece. So I walked that drainage, and it's just one of those places where you're like, man, there's got to be a buck in here. Just by the way it lays out, the way it sets up, I don't think that piece gets a whole lot of pressure because there's not a whole lot around it. Like there's not a lot of other walk-in places that are near it, or accessible to hunt places that are near it, to the public at least. And so I felt like there should be a buck in there. I was looking for tracks as I kind of took the edge of the cornfield in. Didn't cut any good tracks still. And set up in there, did a rattling sequence and nothing, and then finished walking that drainage out. And really all the buck sign I had seen was basically on the north side of this piece. And I came in on the south side this particular day. And so that was kind of a bust. So, but I thought, I was like, man, I'm going to come back and glass this probably tomorrow night. So Sunday night was my plan. I was like, I'm going to, do whatever I'm going to do on Sunday, hunt, etc. But I'm going to come back and glass this spot. Just because I have a feeling like there's probably not going to be a lot of deer there, but it's one of those places where it's like, it's isolated. And if there's a deer there, it's probably a good one. And then the height of the rubs kind of told me that there's a good buck that's been in there at least. There's a couple scrapes in there, a handful of rubs. So I felt good about that spot. So my plan was, after I got done with that, was to kind of bail and go to a spot where I could glass for the evening. And I glassed for, however long it was, couple hours maybe on Saturday night. And it's kind of a slow start. Deer filtered out. Saw a pile of coyotes though, man. Like, I think I saw 4 in the daylight. And they weren't far away. They were probably only like 200 yards away. They were within shooting range if you were coyote hunting. But that was kind of wild, and the big dogs too. And they were actually in an area that I've hunted before, and deer usually filter out into this area too, which kind of busted that spot for glassing it because, they were in there, messing around pretty much the whole evening. And then, as I kind of kept watching, a couple more deer would pop out, and then finally I saw a buck, and it looked like it had a decent frame. But as I put the spotter on, because I'm basically using, when I'm set up to glass, it's like I've got a set of like my hawk binos that I'm using, and then I have a hawk spotter that I'm using that I have set up on a tripod. Usually if I have a really known kind of glassing area, I'll carry the tripod and the spotter with me. Sometimes I'm just doing it from the truck because I can park where I'm going to spot. Just depends on the area. So I had my spotter out and I was able to throw the spotter on him and could tell it's like he was just, I don't even know if he had brows. I couldn't really see him, but he just had a bunch of frame, but it was just like 2. So like he was either 4-point or 6-point, but it was like the biggest 4-point or 6-point I've ever seen. Not a huge body, probably 3-year-old deer would be my guess. He didn't look like he was a fully mature animal, not in comparison to the deer that I saw on Tuesday. So a couple more, another young buck popped out. I don't know how many deer I ended up seeing, maybe 15 deer or something like that. And then right as like light started fading, I finally saw like the first bit of chasing, and it looked like an okay buck. Like it still looked like a young deer was doing the chasing, and I was losing enough light at this point to where I couldn't make out. I could make out it was a buck. I could make out it was a rack, but couldn't really make out, exactly what he was. And then there was a deer that was kind of down off in this brushy stuff that I could see him moving. It was clearly a buck, body size. Now I really wanted to get a look at him, and I just couldn't. Every time I would get him in the binos, and then I would move the spotter and try to get him in the spotter. And every time I would, he would move. And then I'd have to put the binos back on and relocate him and then get the spotter. And every time I did that, he would move and then he would get behind a tree. And so never got a look at him. But his body was clearly bigger than the other deer that I was seeing. Even the buck that was doing the chasing and pushing does around, he was clearly bigger than that deer. So watched him for a little bit, tried to relocate him, and then I looked off to my right and relatively close, there's like this big patch of like CRP and cedars and stuff like that. I saw a buck move through there, and that one was close enough with my naked eye. I could see it was a rack buck again, but couldn't tell how big he was or how good he was. He didn't look to be a huge deer, but I didn't get a good glimpse of him. And he was clearly seeking. So that area looked like it was kind of heating up, if you will. We'll say it that way. And so my plan was Sunday morning is like there's a particular way how guys I've watched hunt this particular piece, and it's typically in my opinion, I'm sure people have killed deer doing this, but in my estimation, they're hunting it somewhat wrong. A couple guys were there that night, and one of them was hunting it. I was actually watching him as I was glassing, and I could see him, and he was still hunting it, but he was still hunting it with the wind to his back. And I'm not sure what the point of that was. I actually watched him kick a couple deer out by the time he was within 250 yards of that deer, just does. But so at any rate, the area that I typically watch and like to hunt on this piece, people don't typically go into. There's not obvious setups in it, and that's why I like it. But I've spent a lot of time watching this area over the course of a couple seasons of being in this particular area, and the deer, whenever things start to pop off, they'll cruise and travel this whole area. Like you'll watch them midday cruisers, but there's a particular area whenever things are about to get real, a particular area kind of cracks off, right? And all the real activity is in this particular area. And I've watched it this will be the fourth season that I've been in this area and have watched it. And so I figured Sunday morning would be a good day to kind of put a hunt on, since things are starting to get a little jiggy. So I went into the area, got there early, time change, remembered to set my alarm, which is always key, at the right time since we had the fallback. Got into the area, had 3 does basically come in first thing in the morning. I was set up obviously on the ground, ghillie jacket, decoy. They walked right to me to like, I don't know, 10 yards maybe. And then just kind of moseyed on their merry way. They saw my outline. The doe just kind of stopped. She hopped, looked at me, and then just turned and walked down, I guess, east of me. Didn't blow, didn't anything, just kind of went on their merry way and into an area where I know that they like to spend time. So, didn't soil that area up too badly. And then I really didn't see anything the rest of the morning. I hunted till probably about the same time, till about 10 o'clock maybe. And then the plan was to get down and then just drive and cover ground, because it was going to heat up tomorrow. I think it got up to 70, or not tomorrow, yesterday. It was supposed to heat up, and it ended up getting up to about 72 degrees. So my plan was just to drive, and there was an area I wanted to get to that was kind of further south. that I tried to get to the day before, but I just ran out of time. And I wasn't going to get there with enough light to really do anything meaningful. So yesterday I was like, I've got time, I've got basically all day. It's going to heat up. I just want to get and look at that piece, and I want to get back to the one piece that had some promise where I had all those rubs, and I want to get back in glass. And so I took like a long loop since I had the whole day and checked out some other stuff that I hadn't hunted before, walked 2 of those pieces, 3 of those pieces, and saw 2 does. So there's some does in there. So what I've basically been doing is just marking spots that have does. What I really like about these 2 spots, again, it's these 2 areas, you're not going to get run over with deer because I didn't see a lot of them. And I saw tracks, but not a ton of tracks necessarily. But there was like a doe in each one, right? And so I kind of like that because I know there's a doe that's living in there, and there will be a buck that will be in there to find that doe, right? And it just makes, you're not dealing with as many eyeballs and things of that nature. So I found probably the best rub I found so far. That thing was pretty tall. It was, chest high on me, which was good. And then the area just sets up really good. And again, I think it's an area that people aren't spending a lot of time on. I didn't see any boot tracks. It feels like it's a little bit secluded, if you will. And so that was good. So I liked what I found there. I think this will be an area where I'll spend a little bit more time. And then I drove south to the piece I really wanted to check out. And man, this place is awesome. Now the bummer is I really didn't see a ton of deer sign in it. But the habitat sets up freaking awesome, and it's hard to access because there's only a road frontage of one piece, and you've got to walk through that piece to get to anything else. And so the one thing you'll find out here, at least, is that it's a lot of driving and glassing. A lot of people do, and I do it too. And people get comfortable doing that and don't necessarily get out, if they have to hike to a rise, hike a mile to get up on top of a vantage point to where you can see a ton of ground and just kind of watch a ton of area. And a lot of times, if you can do that, that area that's around you is also not huntable, which doesn't mean a whole lot because, you can see the deer, and if they're coming toward you or they can get close enough that you can call them, you can get them in. But a lot of times people won't do that. Right. And so I found this spot. It's awesome. It's also a ton of CRP. There's not a lot of ag around this particular area, which a lot of people want to find ag. The other thing to note too is like the crops are all still in. Like they started pulling them out once it dried out, but it's just, there's still a pile of crops in. So I marked this spot. I walked some of it. I actually text Chad about it because I was like, I think we need to spend some time here. I think this glassing vantage point, there's a bunch of drainages. It sets up really, really good. But I think you'd have to burn like a full day on that top and just watching the whole day and see if there's a good buck in the area and then make a game plan for him. And so that was basically, that was the most of Sunday was driving and looking at that stuff. And then I bebopped back to the area that I thought had some good promise and glassed that last night. And man, I was like, I'm not going to see a ton of deer, but I was like, last light, there's going to be a hammer walkout. Did not happen. So my intuition was correct. I don't think that spot is beat necessarily. I just think that, he didn't come out or it wasn't around, last night. There's a lot of CRP that's around him in this particular area. There's still corn up in this particular area. So a lot of places he could be. I think once that corn comes out, we might have a little bit of a different story. So we'll see. But I was let down with that because I really kind of felt good about that particular area. So that's basically the update at this point. It's Monday now. I'm back to work tomorrow and Tuesday. And then I'm off. After that, I'm off to like the 5th through like the 19th or something like that, I think. And it'll be hunting, getting after it every day. So hopefully I'll be able to keep up with doing a couple of these. It's hard whenever you hunt all day and come home and you're getting up at 4 a.m. or 3:30 or whatever the case is, trying to find time to get these in. But hopefully I'll be able to get one in every so often to give you guys an update. So with that, as always, thank you all for listening.
All right, folks, that is a wrap for today's show. I'd like to thank all of you for listening. And if you haven't yet, please head over to iTunes and leave us a 5-star rating. And be sure to subscribe to the podcast. And hell, while you're at it, head over to YouTube and give us a sub there too. I'd be super appreciative if you do those couple things for me. And before I shut this thing down, I need to give a big shout out to our partners who continue to help us make this podcast possible. Tacticam, Osseo Gear, Hawk Optics, Face Off E-Bikes, and Lathrop & Sons Boot Company. And until next time, we'll see y'all.